and welcome to our coverage of the 63rd 24 Hours of Le Mans. This is the Road to Le Mans Part 3. In this next half hour, we'll preview the Grand Prix d'Endurance in 1999 and the events of this week's lead-up to the weekend's big race. Le Mans, they say, is the only reality. The rest is just waiting, and the month of June seems to rush by for each of the teams involved. Suddenly you're at tech inspection, and then qualifying is the Wednesday and Thursday, and today, Friday, the final preparation day before the start on Saturday. There's never been an entry list like it. Toyota, Mercedes, Audi, Nissan, Ferrari, Chrysler, Riley and Scott and Lola. It's a tremendous field this year. And so, as we get ready for qualifying on Wednesday afternoon, the pits all immaculately laid out days in advance. Now, pre-qualifying can be forgotten. Testing is complete, or not. No excuses now. Now's the time to qualify. The drivers get ready. The engineers look nervous. The track is prepared. The marshals are all in place. And very shortly now, qualification for the 63rd 24 Hours du Mans. The striking new Mercedes CLRs are ready to go, and first away is the BMW, followed by the Toyotas, the open-top Audis, the Mercedes, and the rest of the field. Always a tense time. The start of the real weekend. After all these months of testing, preparation, pre-qualifying, it's out on the track, up against the clock. Max Angelilli has got a drive in the Paynos, and he has his mirror set for him. The open-top Paynos, very dramatic. The Vipers, bound to be the class of the field in their GTS class. And nice to see the Ferrari 333 SP. Perhaps it's swan song at Le Mans now. Only one car left from the JB team. And this is the 98 BMW, the Go car, and here is the hot favourites, the Toyotas. What a dramatic looking car it is. Up through the Dunlop curve. Everybody now just beginning to settle in. They've got all Wednesday afternoon, all Thursday afternoon to set that time. BMW number 17 is the J.J. Leto, Tom Christensen, Jörg Müller car. And that's looked quick. They've had a nice result in the United States earlier in the year at Sebring. J.J., a former winner here, of course, in 95 in the McLaren. And the Mercedes number 5, that's the Bushu Heidfeld Peter Dumbreck car. Dumbreck coming over specially from Japan, where he's currently racing in Formula Nippon for this big event. And the Audi number 7, Michele Alboreto, the star of that Audi Joest team. Two Audi teams here, of course, this weekend. The open Spider car, as we're looking at here, and the closed coupe. The Paynos may have lost its roof, but it still makes a wonderful noise. And this is Martin Brundle in Toyota number 1, the hot favourite, on a hot lap. The aerodynamics on that car are quite something. Toyota have thrown money at this project, and their 3 cars are looking very strong. Here's Nissan number 23, the rival Japanese manufacturer, with Eric van der Poel pulling out. A very curious front to that car, a strange nose. The pressure's really on Nissan to perform. They've got to get out there and compete with Toyota. Van der Poel, a very experienced sports car driver. Car sounds nice, but there's a red flag. There's a red flag. The first qualifying has been stopped. And here is the remnants of the Van der Poel Nissan. And that's a very nasty looking shunt for the number 23 car. This has been a big impact. It appears that the throttle stuck at Tertre Rouge, worried faces there, and poor Van der Poel is carried away on a stretcher. We subsequently heard that he's cracked his 12th vertebrae, very painful accident, and he's going to have to be on his back in the hospital for a month. So our best wishes to Van der Poel. He actually managed to move the barrier back around 4 feet. That was the strength of the impact. It's caused considerable concern in the pit lane. And the shutters come down on the Nissan box. We won't be seeing any more of the 23 Nissan, just completely irreparable. Jean-Marc Gounod and the other drivers looking concerned. Stefan Johansson on his Audi.
Very, very, it turns in very far. The braking, I have to brake very early because if I try to brake and turn into the chicane, the back is immediately coming around.
Et ça repart dans 10 minutes. 10 minutes. Ouais, 20h47.
So it appears that qualifying is now set to get underway again. Red flags, of course, have been out since the Van der Poel accident. And away we go again. Everyone very keen to make sure they get in the maximum amount of laps. All three drivers got to qualify. All three drivers got to do laps in daylight and in nighttime. You only need one little problem to give yourself a problem that just multiplies over the whole weekend. Toyota number 2, Alan McNish now driving it, last year's winner. He's sharing with Ralph Kennelers and Thierry Boutsen. Mercedes number 6 is Schneider, Lamy and Lagos. Bernd Schneider, of course, perhaps the leading sports car driver of the period, champion in 97 in the FIA GTs. Always distinguishable by those little yellow wing mirrors on the Mercedes. The Mercedes makes a wonderful sort of American V8 type noise, not the sort of Germanic shrill noise you'd expect, and thunders across the start-finish line for another quick lap. Boutsen car, determined to keep the pressure up on their teammates. It would appear that Thierry Boutsen was selected to qualify the number 2 car rather than Alan McNish. Alan, we spoke to earlier, seemed to be very happy about that. The important thing is the team performance, and of course Alan, coming off last year's win at the Porsche, would love to have another crack in 99. BMW 15, that magnificent BMW V12 engine, still making a wonderful noise. That's the Winkelhock, Martini and Yannick Dalma car. Dalma, of course, still with a sore back and feelings after the pre-qualifying accident, pursued by the number 4 Mercedes, which is Australian Mark Webber, sharing with Frenchman Jean-Marc Gounod and young Marcel Thiemann from Germany. The Audi Coupe of Stefan Johansson, who we heard talking about his handling problems there a little earlier during the red flag period, is sharing with Stefan Ortelli and Christian Abt from Germany, called up from touring cars. Going slowly on Wednesday, they were having difficulties with their gearbox, and Audi seemed to be having difficulties throughout Wednesday. Mechanics taking time out for a bite to eat, but they're certainly learning about Le Mans the hard way. So, for the Nissans, this is the Courage chassis, number 21, with the Nissan engine. Frederick Ekblom up. He's sharing that car with Mark Goossens and Didier Cottaz. A lot of Formula 3000 experience there. Another pace is going to hot up now. Martin Brundle in Toyota number 1 is going out to see what he can do about putting that car firmly at the top of the timesheet. And that's a 3:31.176. That's the fastest we've seen so far on Wednesday afternoon. Very powerful, still very twitchy. And in the GTS class, what we always used to call GT2, Olivier Beretta, Carl Wendlinger and Dominic Dupuis in Oreca's lead car, number 51. That's the lead, one of those mighty Chrysler Vipers run by the French Oreca team. And they've been so much quicker in pre-qualifying, very confidence-boosting testing they've had. And a bit of a team battle in Toyota. Boutsen's going for a quick time here. Constant pressure on all the drivers at Le Mans, but Thierry Boutsen has done it. He's just gone quicker than Brundle in a 3:30.801. Toyota management got to discuss which car is going to do what, and I expect they'll be sending Brundle out again, and here we are, and Brundle has popped in a 3 minutes 29 1:38.930. That is a quick lap. So, who's going to catch Toyota? The Mercedes number 5. This is the Nick Heidfeld, Peter Dumbrick, Christoph Wushu car. Maybe they can put in a quick lap. GT2 cars are much slower. Now then, this is the JJ Lehto, Tom Christensen, a former winner, of course, and Jörg Müller. They've got to try and catch Toyota as dusk begins to come towards the famous circuit of La Salle. Trying to keep the GT2 cars, the GTS cars, that should be, out of the way. And they're on it now. The Japanese crewed Toyota, that's the third Toyota, number 3. And they've been quick as well, not quite as quick as Brundle or the Boots and McNish car, but they've been quick also. Done a lot of the development work on this car. They've done 5 24-hour tests. They know this car can last. And the Pénons. David Brabham is sharing with Butz Leisinger from the United States and Eric Bernard from France. They've pushed very hard. They really surprised everybody in pre-qualifying. It's an unlikely looking car. Great big front engine, Ford powered car with the engines built by the NASCAR team. Michele Alboreto there in the pits. Private BMWs. And Alboreto now out in the Spider Audi. He pushed on for a best of 3:37.140 in the Wednesday session. The Nissan number 21 of Kottas, Ekblom and Goossens did a best of 3:40.393. The number 9 Audi Coupe still had its troubles. Christian Abt waiting there to take over. The sister car was also troubled. That's the all-British crew of Perry McCarthy, James Weaver and Andy Wallace. Andy, of course, a winner before in the Jaguar days. And so, we've got to remember that both days of qualifying are divided into 2 sessions, late afternoon and dark. Each driver's got to do laps in the dark in order to prove that they're going to be competitive. And of course, a number of the younger drivers have not raced a car in the dark before. The JB GS-sponsored Ferrari 333 SP there. Mechanics working on the Pénons. It's also possible, come night, temperatures begin to fall, you can use a different set of tires. Everyone looking to optimize performance. Seems hard to believe to the average road driver that you really can circulate Le Mans quicker at night with just your headlights than you can in full daylight. But with a different temperature, lower oil temperatures, the tires not over-pressurizing in the heat, it's possible to have a look. That's the Dutch crude Lola with a big American Ford V8 in it. This race always so important to the Japanese. Not since Mazda won in 91 have there been the sort of Japanese victory that perhaps the budget, the determination of the drivers and the major manufacturers would have warranted. Mercedes happy with their performance so far and having to acknowledge that maybe the Toyotas are just plain quicker. Wonderful raughty noise from that big Mercedes exhaust. The S's by night, always an evocative sign. As the cars blast through the trees, numbers lit up for identification, and away out onto the famous Mulsanne Straight. 200 plus miles an hour in the dark with 2 chicanes to catch you out. Braking points harder to find. But it's not just the big cars at the front of the field. Porsche, not represented in what we used to call GT1 this year, have put a lot of effort into the new 996, the pretty shaped new road car for the all-new GT3 class. They've got to try and get some of those cars into the race. Viper 53 there is the Donahue, Belloc and Soil Ayari car, two French Formula 3000 drivers with a well-known American sports car driver. And so, Toyota out again. Brundle, of course, sharing with Emmanuel Collard and Vincenzo Sospiri. Those two have been winning everything this year in the Open Top World Sports Car Series. And Toyota very confidently parking the cars nose on. It has to be that they're quite pleased with their performance to date. Mark Webber's driven very well, the young Australian. He's done a 3 minutes 35.301. Pedro Lamy there with Bernd Schneider must be wondering how they're going to catch the Toyotas. And so, midnight draws near as we get to the end of Wednesday's qualifying. And so, at the end of that first qualifying, it was the Toyotas first and second, followed by Brabham with a great performance in the front engine Paynos, then JJ Lehto and co. in the BMW, the other two Mercedes, the Japanese crewed Toyota, and then the rest of the field with the second BMW, and a good performance there from Michele Alboreto, 10th in the Audi. And the fastest Viper, 3 minutes 56. That's a very quick time for the GTS class, and the Porsche GT3 just there. Which brings us on to Thursday, the final day of qualifying. Jackie Ickx there, 5 times winner, under a warm sky, excellent track conditions. Can anyone unseat Toyota? Well, they probably won't do it in this first session, perhaps later when temperatures are a little cooler. Here's one who will be having difficulty getting up there onto the Toyota pace. Both the Audis, impressive, not quick enough yet. And this is the approach to the famous, slightly banked corner called Indianapolis. It's very tricky, that approach. You have to swing right over to the right-hand side of the track, turn into the banking, and head down to the corner at Arnage. Big crowds already here for qualifying. Now, the US-designed Riley and Scott is finding the pace just too hot. This is a number 32 car, all prepared by Philippe Gache, Solution F Company. Schneider's Mercedes, still with that very distinctive Mercedes bouncing nose pattern. It's quite bumpy as they come there into Arnage and accelerate away. Always just a little jiggle from the front there. That's been around since Mercedes first brought these fabulous sports cars back to racing in the 97 GT Championship. Fully committed as ever. This is the BMW number 15, Winkelhock, Martini and Dalmas, running through the Ford chicanes, past his crew and up and under the Dunlop Bridge, one of the most famous sights of Le Mans. Down through the S's. Nissan now have got to pick themselves up after the drama of Van der Poel's accident yesterday. This is the sister car. Nissan have got to put their troubles behind them and prepare for a competitive race. A rapt crowd as ever at Le Mans. The Lehto Tom Christensen car has just done a 3 minutes 31.209. That's very quick, but it's still just third overall. The two Toyotas still out in front. But JJ ever won for the committed and dedicated lap. Very impressive indeed from BMW. That car last year looked quite different, had a lot of trouble. There's been a lot of development over the winter. And there they are in team formation. JJ, of course, bouncing back from a rather difficult season he spent in '98 over in IndyCar racing. And here then is Bernd Schneider out in Mercedes number 6. He'll be sharing with Frank Lagos and Pedro Lamy, the Portuguese, and they've got to try and go for German honor at least as quickly as the Lehto BMW. even if they're accepting that the Toyotas have got them on outright pace for the moment. But he's ended up 4th overall on 3 minutes 31.541. He's going to have to be satisfied with that. So the honour for top German in the absence of Porsche from the top class this year goes to BMW. Now here's a nice little car. The French-run Dams Lola there, the black car, sponsored by Motorola, with the Judd V10 Formula One engine. That's a quick car. We can look for that through the weekend. Number 15, not quite as quick as their teammates, the BMW second car, but they did a 3 minutes 33.931 for 6th overall. And that then is Winkelhock at the wheel there. Smoking Joe. And now the Mercedes. The red wing mirrors belong to the Jean-Marc Gounon car. Mark Webber also. Schneider also out there. And we're back with car number 4 here. Setting off through the S's. Those Toyotas look so impressive, so stable under braking. Immaculate turn-in. These cars have really been very carefully engineered. And look at that. 3 Vipers in line astern. That's what, 3 times 8 litres. That's a 24-litre engine. They've really led the class throughout the year in the FIA GT Championship without any trouble, and they've got to be looking for a strong result here. Oreca, very professional team. And here's drama. This is the Mark Webber car, and look at the damage to that Mercedes. It appears that he actually flipped. He got caught in air turbulence behind a car he was following, came over a crest, the car's nose lifted up, he did a complete 360 backflip. That's his teammate Jean-Marc Gounon looking very concerned. He's gone out to have a look, talking to the marshal. Norbert Haug, the worldwide head of Mercedes-Benz Motorsport, and Bernd Schneider, all equally concerned. Mark Webber was stretched away to hospital, but it transpires that he's not badly hurt, and a lot of physio should be back ready to go Saturday 4 p.m. Philippe Gash had an accident as well in his own engineered Solution F, Riley and Scott. Big swipe at the barrier. And so this dramatic qualifying moves into its final stages, the last 2 hours at night, nighttime at Arnage. Perhaps with the temperatures dropping now, it got quite chilly on Thursday night, and perhaps with these cooler temperatures, there's a chance, a last chance, to set a quick time. Traditional Le Mans shot there, of the glowing brake discs, cherry red from the heat dissipation there, as they head off down to Indianapolis. One of the most evocative sights in motorsport. Hang over the fence with your bag of frites and your French beer in your hand, and watch this, the most dramatic form of motorsport in the world, the 1999 Battle of the Manufacturers. Mercedes in, BMW in. There's no time to lose now. Here's the Audi. Alboreto wants to get out. Tom Christensen there. And the Paynos. At least everyone feels that the Paynos is a little cooler to drive than the closed version of the last 2 years. Emmanuel Pollard there, Martin Brundle's teammate. Alan McNish, last year's winner. And qualifying is over. The die is cast. The 63rd Le Mans is set. Here's the grid. Toyota GT1, that's the Brundle Collard car. In front of their Boots and McNish teammates, the BMW, the fastest Mercedes, and then a very good performance by the Paynos. They're in 5th place. The second BMW. The Mercedes again, and the Japanese crude Toyota. With the Lola, the Ferrari, the Nissan, the second Paynos, all in there, in the mix, with the Coupe Audi. Best performance of 3:42. The Chrysler Viper was quickest in its class. That's the Oreca car of Olivier Beretta, who set that time. And the GT3 Porsches are there as well. Welcome to Le Mans for the 67th running of the 24 Hours of Le Mans, the Grand Prix of Endurance that runs around this famous 13.6 kilometer course here in north-central France. Just a few minutes to go now before the cars are finally lined up to set off around the 24 hours. The funfair, the Hawaiian Tropic Girls, the drivers have been paraded in the new open Audi coupes, and here on the front of the grid is Martin Brundle, the British driver making his annual return to motorsport and time off from his television Formula One duties in order to drive the lead Toyota. Alongside him, Thierry Boutsen, the incredibly experienced Belgian Grand Prix winner, will have first slot in the number 2 Toyota. Inside one of the fabulous Mercedes CLRs, the new, lower, shapelier Mercedes for 1999. Michele Alboreto, a former Le Mans winner and multiple Grand Prix winner, in the elegant little Audi Coupe. The fabulous Ford-engined Panoz, front-engine monster, which has already earned its way into the heart of the fans here at Le Mans. That's Johnny O'Connell, due to drive with Jan Magnussen. The Nissans are here as well, with a rather curious-nosed Spider format of car, with Eric Coma due to take the first stint in the lead car. Audi Sport UK have built a coupe as opposed to the open Audi, and that will be started by Andy Wallace, a very experienced British trio there of Wallace, Weaver and McCarthy. Yannick Dalmas here, already a 3-time winner at Le Mans, prepares to start the second of the elegant open BMW V12 coupes. And this has to be the likely class winner in the GTS second, more production-based class, the Oreca Chrysler Viper, to be driven at the start by Olivier Beretta. There are Porsche's 911 GTS cars as well, up against the phalanx of Chrysler Vipers, and Jean-Pierre Jarier, the 52-year-old French Grand Prix driver of the 1970s, has to be there as a quickie. So, Toyota at the front, up there with Mercedes, BMW and the open Audis, and just in the top 10, the first of the Nissan R391s. The Lolo with the Judd Formula One engine has been quick, as has the Ferrari 333 SP. There are private BMWs, the Courages as ever at Le Mans, a possibility as a threat for a top 6 slot. We're going to be able to look down from the Goodyear balloon throughout the race, and here's our first shot showing how crowded the grid can be, and it's the green flag. The cars have set off, warming up the tyres as they set off away from Tertre Rouge towards the beginning of the famous Mulsanne Straight. Here we see them coming into the slightly banked corner of Indianapolis and coming on out to Arnage. After the right-hander at Arnage is now the fastest part of the course because of the chicanes now in the Mulsanne Straight, and we'll see the certainly Mercedes and Toyotas touching 220 miles an hour. They then wind their way back through the Porsche cars and up to the start line, and straight away it's go. It's 4 o'clock on Saturday. The Le Mans 24 Hours gets underway, and straight into the expected lead goes Martin Brundle, followed by Thierry Boutsen, with Bernd Schneider in close pursuit. Schneider's Mercedes has the yellow, and there's a spinner straight away. Mr. Kato from Japan in the private Go Motorsports 98 BMW has not made himself very popular, putting Johnny O'Connell in the Panoz, the second Panoz, onto the gravel, nearly, oh dear, taking up one of the Courages. So, onto the Mulsanne. It's Toyota. Bernd Schneider's Mercedes has the yellow wing mirrors, always identifiable. And here we are on board in the second Mercedes with Christophe Bouchou coming up to the chicane. That was a left-hand chicane at Mulsanne, underneath the famous Dunlop Bridge at the beginning of lap 2. Martin Brundle leads from Thierry Boutsen. A glorious day here at Le Mans. And already Brundle is right down there to 3:37. That's only fractions away from his qualifying time. Toyota mechanics looking very confident indeed. And here is David Brabham in the number 12 Panoz with that wonderful throaty roar. That's Yannick Dalmas in the second of the 2 BMW coupes, lying back in about 8th place at this stage. That will be a consistent car, and followed by the Japanese-driven Toyota. Somebody already in trouble here. That was the Montero brothers Porsche, and here we are on board with Ukyo Katayama making his first stop. Katayama brings the number 3 Toyota in for a straightforward refueling. It's one of the British Audis popping in front of him. A very crowded pit lane, as always, at Le Mans. And Katayama stays in the car and pulls away. There seems to be trouble here already with the British Audi. This is the John Wickham run car. And on board in one of the Oreca Vipers, we'll see which one that is. That is Beretta's, the class-leading car. Being lapped already by the Paynos. The Paynos lapped in practice at 3 minutes 33, and the Viper at about 4 minutes. That'll be about their race pace around the 4-minute mark. A refueling stop for Thierry Boutsen. Fuel only there, though you can see the brake cooling fans that Toyota are applying, and blasts away. But be careful in the pit lane. And that's Steve Soper. Steve Soper spinning, just where we were saying to be careful at the exit. Steve Soper has spun the private Thomas Pachero 98 BMW on the way into the pit lane. That'll embarrass him. Michele Alboreto sets off again in the open Audi, and Martin Brundle makes his scheduled stop. Now this is a tense time. Brundle wants to keep the lead. He wants to keep his track position. And in at the same time is the second of the Mercedes, that's Christophe Bouchou. And Bouchou is staying in his car. The Toyota pulls out and nearly gets chopped up by Bernd Schneider, who is determined to get the lead of this race. And in the pit lane, Schneider has taken the lead. That will not please Martin Brundle, as his teammate sweeps by in second place. Schneider, probably the best all-round sports car driver of the late 1990s. Toyota not looking so impressed now as they were earlier on, and Schneider leads. Schneider leads the Toyotas numbers 2 and 1. That's Boutsen and Brundle. You can see the nose of the Mercedes moving up and down under braking as they brake down there for the final right-hander before this left at Indianapolis. The car always seems to nosedive under braking, but Schneider is trying very hard indeed. You can see the difference. The Mercedes is really moving its tail around as they accelerate away from the slower corners. The Toyota looks very stable. The Weaver, McCarthy, Wallace Audis already in trouble, and we've got a spinner here. This is one of the Riley and Scott's, I believe, and it looks as though he stalled it and can't get it started again, giving everyone a fright. And so it's the first stop for the lead number 17 BMW Coupe. Tom Christensen, a former Le Mans winner despite his youth, in there at the car at the moment, and they are indeed lying fourth behind the Mercedes and the two Toyotas. Very crowded out on the track here. Schneider is determined to get... Oh dear, Schneider had a terrible moment there. The enthusiastic Japanese amateur, Terada, in the Auto X, which is basically a Riley and Scott Ford, just didn't see him. Schneider had to apply the brakes. The rear end got all snaky, and that allowed the Toyota to close up. That is one of the hazards of Le Mans. A number 60 there spinning in among the Porsche GTS class is the Linto Duraz car. And another tight moment through. These are also, of course, Le Mans prototype cars. The two Riley and Scotts running together there, managing to nearly trip up Schneider and his battle with the two leading Toyotas. We're going to get a replay here. Schneider makes the decision he's going to try and go through the middle, but then the front car chops him off. This is a very quick part of the course, and you have to be so careful when lapping the back markers. There are speed differentials between the slowest GT3 type Porsche and the front-running cars of over 50 miles an hour, 80 kilometers an hour. But Boutsen has just outbraked Schneider, and Boutsen takes a Toyota back into the lead. These early hours at Le Mans are all important for the images as they fly around the world to show that Toyota can indeed take on Mercedes and run with them right at the front. The Nissan's having a tyre change as well as a refuel, and once again the Toyota and the Mercedes come in together. Let's hope this time there are no clashes in the pit lane. Schneider is out. And Pedro Lamy of Portugal is getting into the car for the second stint. We can't see if there's been a driver change in the Toyota. Yes, there has. That will be Alan McNish taking over the number 2 car, the young Scotsman. And Lamy is away. Is he away in front of the Toyota? Yes, he is. Pedro Lamy takes the lead Mercedes out in front of the Toyotas. This is turning into a real battle here at Le Mans. Pit stop there for the Audi Coupes. And that's Jörg Müller due to take a stint now, a takeover from young Tom Christensen. This car will shortly be driven by JJ Leto, former Le Mans winner and probably the fastest driver at the track. Neat little changeover. Christensen helps Müller into his straps. This team run by Charlie Lamb on the Schnitzer team, and as ever, and a very efficient stop by Lamb's highly trained men. Lovely noise the BMW makes. That's the engine, of course, that's been in the McLaren sports car the last 4 Le Mans. That's Pierluigi Martini waiting to take over from multiple Le Mans winner Yannick Dalmas. So, as everyone makes their driver change stops as opposed to their fuel stops, the Mercedes, now with Pedro Lamy at the lead, thunders by with that deep, evocative Mercedes noise in front of the 3.5-litre turbo Toyotas. Dalmas straps in Pierluigi. Pierluigi, very quick last year for BMW while the cars lasted, which wasn't very long, has emerged as something of a star in that team. There's not much room, as you can see, when you're pulling out of the pits and he locks up there in order to make sure he doesn't trip up the French Dams entered Lola there. Martini having to be careful as he sets off. The lead car with Jörg Müller, the lead of the 2 BMWs, with Jörg Müller at the wheel. And that car is now leading the race overall from the Boots and McNish Toyota. And this is a big wreck here. This is Manfred Duras, the amateur driver, and he's had a big off. There's muck all over the track, bits of broken Porsche. And get out of the way faster than that, sir. No need to go back. Right, thank you. These are some of the problems of Le Mans. This is Philippe Gache in the Riley and Scott Solution F car, shared with the South African Gary Formato and Marco Apicella, and the car has not proved reliable at all during qualifying and testing, and that looks as though they already have a problem. Very disappointing for the French team. Dust everywhere from somebody else's minor off, with the Toyota closing down now on the lead BMW. Bernd Schneider waits. A Mercedes engineer briefs Frank Lagorce. And out here on the Mulsanne, Toyota makes the move on Jörg Müller and takes the lead. Beautiful sounding car, that BMW, and just such an elegant bodywork on the Toyota. Schneider now gets a chance to add his sixpennyworth as the Toyota comes in following the Audi UK Coupe, still with troubles. That car has not been at all reliable throughout the week here at Le Mans. Jörg Müller sees the BMW carefully through Arnage. Audi banners everywhere, you'll notice. Audi making the most of their return to top-level motorsport. As right up at the end of the pit lane, Müller comes in just for refueling and pulls away again, still safely at the wheel of his car. The Toyotas, and this is on board from the Toyotas. Can you imagine how hard it is to see as the afternoon, a rather hazy afternoon now, begins to draw to a close? Look at all those bugs on the windscreen at 220 miles an hour. That must be terrifying. We have here a replay of, oh dear, the number 81 car there is the GT3 class leading works supported Porsche being hit very hard by one of the GTS cars. And the Toyota is determined to keep pressing on. The Boots and McNish car back in front of Muller. Meanwhile, back at the pits, the Nissans have another routine pit stop. You see different shaped seats for the different drivers. Get your seat in, get your belts on. There's muck. The black coming out of the nose of the radiator there is just what we call the marbles, the shreddings off the tyres in this very, very warm track temperature. The Nissan gets underway. A routine stop for the Mercedes team. This is the Bouchou-Nick Heidfeld car with Heidfeld waiting to get in. And again, Mercedes also trying to clear the rubber off the radiator inlet so that the car doesn't overheat. Heidfeld looking very thoughtful there. And away they go. Now that's now Christophe Bouchou back in. Young Peter Dumbreck, the Scottish driver, has not yet had a turn at the wheel. On board with the Mercedes. Bouchou, a winner, remarkably, the first time he ever came to Le Mans, driving the Peugeot back at the beginning of the 90s. Christophe Bouchou has also won the Daytona 24 Hours and richly deserves his seat at Mercedes-Benz for Mercedes-Benz big year. Mercedes, of course, already down to just 2 cars after the dramatic aerial flip that happened to Australia's young Mark Webber this morning, Saturday morning, during the warm-up. Paul Webber had experienced the same aerodynamic problem in the third Mercedes, which he was due to share with Jean-Marc Gounon during Thursday's qualifying lap. Mercedes have been worried about this, and for the race they've added new big extra trim tabs to the front of the nose of both the number 5 and number 6 Mercedes-Benz. The 4 car then simply never started after the second accident this morning, Saturday morning, in the warm-up. So, we've seen Bouchou take the first of the right-handed chicanes on the Mulsanne straight. The chicanes have been with us for about 15 years now, but it used to be one straight blind with the cars reaching over 240 miles an hour. Now they break down towards the second of the chicanes, the left-hand chicane, following the private Japanese-entered BMW. Little tweak of the tail there. As he overtakes one car, he finds his way blocked. The noise of the Mercedes-Benz is what everybody remarks upon. It sounds like a big, loud American car. Just there at the crest of the hill was where poor Mark Webber had his accident. He's fine. He's not hurt himself. Had his slight takeoff during warm-up this morning. But the Mercedes holding a very strong position here. Now he's reaching up as he accelerates up away from the end of the Mulsanne. The car is now moving at nearly 200 miles an hour as he comes up to the final right-hand kink that brings him down to Indianapolis corner. This is a very unstable part of the track. Got to get back over on the right-hand side, use the banking, and head up the short squirt to Arnage corner. Bouchou is really pressing on in this car now, really pressing on. I think that's a Toyota in front of him who has been closing down at what must be 3 or 4 seconds a lap. This now is the fastest part of the course. The Mercedes flying in pursuit of one of the Toyotas. You can see somebody's exhaust flaring out on the overrun up ahead, much more dramatic at night, as we will see in a few hours' time. Up the inside of one of the back-marking Porsches, and he really is right up behind the Toyota now. Bouchou is really flying. We've caught him on a very hot lap indeed. Trying to see if he can dive down the inside. These are all called the Porsche curves. Is he going to make it on the right? No, he isn't. Traffic ahead, he's going to have to hold up. Past the Viper, and now coming up to the Ford chicanes. The left, right, left, which is what leads us back onto the pit straight for the start of another lap of the exhausting Le Mans 24-hour course, the circuit of the stars. And he's actually going to get past the Toyota as well, so this really was a quick lap, which we've been privileged to ride with Christophe Bouchou in the Mercedes CLR. Now then, we have the BMW V12 leading the Schneider Lamy Lagos Mercedes. But the open Audi is quite quick in a straight line and appears to be able to hold off the BMW. And they turn into Indianapolis. That's Pierluigi Martini there in the number 15 BMW open car. And it's very tight here coming into the Ford chicane before the start-finish line. The BMW has got in front of the Audi. He's lapped the Audi successfully. He's now got to negotiate. Oh, this is very tight. The two Rook Racing GTS Porsches. But he wends his way between them. One of those blue GTS Porsches, driven by the very rapid German lady Claudia Hürtgen, as they steam up toward the Dunlop S's. The Mercedes manages to sneak by the Audi under braking there as well, and there we just caught a brief glimpse of the Dams Lola. And this looks like a gearbox change, a complete gearbox change on the back of the Audi. From overhead now, from the balloon, we see just how fast and sweeping these curves are. The G-forces are tremendous, very tiring on the drivers as the night goes on. One heads for the pit lane, and the Mercedes carries on towards the start-finish line. A huge crowd here at Le Mans for the 1999 running. Joe Winkelhock waits his turn. Martini jumps out, Winkelhock in. Yes, all watched by the biggest crowd Le Mans has ever seen. The interest in the race this year, with so many manufacturers involved, has been greater than ever before. The Schnitzer team so efficient. And away he goes, still lying second, and the number 17 BMW, with the Boutsen McNish car in the lead. And we have a replay here of more dramas. The GTS class Porsches seem to be having dramas all the time. That is the Portuguese entered Montero brothers car. And here we have a Toyota actually in the garage. They're looking at something there. Yes, the Montero car's now got a puncture. The Toyota mechanics appear to be looking at something on the rear axle or in the gearbox area of the car. Hard to see at this distance. The number 1 Toyota. But the Mercedes noticeably quick in a straight line. Cresting the rise there as you come down to the braking area at the end of a long Mulsanne straight. The Toyota lights ablaze. Make sure the slower cars see them. Here we go. Oh my God! Oh my God! The Mercedes has taken off. That's Peter Dumbreck at the wheel of the number 5 Mercedes. The car flew right up into the air, over the barriers, over the wire, and into the trees. Let's look at this again. This is an awful accident. An awful accident. He moves out of the slipstream of the Toyota, and the car just takes off. That looks horrifically like a replay of what happened to Mark Webber, who I hasten to add, but that's a big impact. Look at the earth thrown up. That is a very big impact. Shock and horror and amazement in the Mercedes garage. They can't believe it's happened again. The mechanics, a dreadful sense of responsibility and concern, and we are now on board the Chrysler Viper. The pace car is out, the safety car, as we must call it. Dominic Dupuy at the wheel there, and the world's press has gathered outside the door of the Mercedes-Benz pits. And there is Dumbreck's car. Flat, but at least it appears to be, the car appears to be windscreen side up, by which I mean that the impact may at least have been somewhat cushioned by the inherent strength of the car. What drama for Mercedes-Benz and poor Peter Dumbreck. We will bring you news as soon as we hear. There is the Chevrolet Corvette safety car pulling off. The medics have done their work. The course clean-up cars have done their work. The car was clear off the track. Looking at that overhead shot, it appeared to be about 100 meters inside the public enclosures. We wait to hear further news. Meanwhile, the race is underway again, and in the lead is the number 1 BMW, followed there by the Ferrari 333 SP, who we had not seen very much of. So the order at this stage is the Lato BMW leading the second Toyota of Boutsen from the teammate BMW V12. Nothing at Le Mans beats speed combined with reliability. And if your cars have problems, and people like BMW keep pounding away without any problems, however fast you are, that's not enough. The red, white and green Ferrari running second of these two cars here, we have to recognize is perhaps the swan song of the Ferrari 333, and that is the British crewed Audi Coupe. That looks like a straight lock-up and a run-on down the escape road, and here he is back in the pits. That was Perry McCarthy. Perry McCarthy, sharing with Andy Wallace and James Weaver, has managed to bring the car out of the gravel trap at Indianapolis and come on back. Very troubled cars, these, just too new. But it's a runner. It still looks very elegant. Audi are determined to get their cars to the finish. They've got the British crewed 2 GT cars and the open Spiders run by the Joest team, and this looks like the end, well, very much the end. We can see a little flame inside there. The Judd V10 has blown comprehensively on the dams entered Christophe Tinceau and Franck Montini and David Terrien driven number 25 Lola. Yes, thank you very much and good night. That is the end of the Lola. Out in the Porsche curves with the alarmingly solid concrete walls very close to the edge of the track. There's the Ferrari still running after various dramas. The car only qualified about 15th. It was not the easiest run. The JB team did originally have 2 cars entered. Oh, and he's busy trying to wipe out the neighbouring mechanics. Deserving of a little drink. Yes, I did manage to get out of the way without being completely knocked over. So, a regular pit stop for the lead BMW. And that gentleman there with the headset on is the boss of the Toyota team, Andre de Cortans, the designer of the car. And the Panos thunders on into the night. Such a wonderful noise. Everyone get everything out of the way, please. We're coming out. The pits are very close, and just in front of the BMW pits are the Rook Porsche cars, all of which have had troubles and spins, and so their mechanics are also a little bit on edge. The Audi is ready to come in, and here is Boutsen handing over to either Kalleners or McNish. We will see in a minute. The pit lane really very crowded, and away he goes. And gently, gently, when that engine comes off cam, it really sounds like a very basic engine. Once it's up and wound, it sounds absolutely beautiful. And out there on the Mulsanne Straight, the echo of these impressively quick cars is just a wonderful noise at dusk. 200,000 fans from all over the world, including the regulation 50,000 British fans. And we've got a spinner. We've got a spinner that looked like a tire deflation. And he's hit the barrier, and it's one of the Toyotas. It's one of the Toyotas has hit the barrier, and that is going to be a big problem. Yes, you can see that the right rear worried looks inside, more than worried looks inside the Toyota pit there. And he's going to try, and it is the number 1 car of Martin Brundle, and he's trying to get it back to the garage, but I don't see that happening. He smacked the wall really quite hard, and no, he's stopped. That's Martin Brundle thinking, what have I got to do to win this race one more time? We all suspect that if Martin were to win it one more time, he would finally hang up his helmet forever. But that means that the BMWs are in an even stronger position, with Brundle's car out there and Boutsen's car still out there, and the other threats to them. BMW couldn't have been so sure, but at the moment it looks very good indeed. And the class-leading Chrysler Viper of Olivier Beretta and Carl Wendlinger. That's Carl Wendlinger there at the wheel. And Brundle, poor chap, there is Brundle sitting at the side of the track. Can't even bear to take his helmet off yet. Thierry Boutsen there, keeping an eye on everything in the Toyota pits, and I'm delighted to say we've been handed a piece of paper from the organisers that says that Peter Dumbreck, driver of the number 5 Mercedes-Benz, which we saw flying through the air on the Mulsanne Straight, is unhurt. He's been taken to hospital and been checked out, a thorough checkout, but we understand he is no more than bruised, and that can really only be described as a miracle. The strength of the impact that the Mercedes-Benz went through, to believe that someone could have survived that unhurt is almost incredible. Meanwhile, back with the action, we saw the Paynos there in trouble coming into the pits, and this is the class-leading Porsche 911 GT3 car, the much more road-going class, of which there are only 4 or 5 cars actually made it into the race, 2 of them very obviously supported by the Porsche factory. That's a puncher, and that's trouble. And strange though it may seem to you, watching this, that you can set the fastest lap in the dark, but that's what Toyota number 2 has just achieved. Alan McNish at the wheel, and Alan McNish now just 57 seconds behind, for all the impression it makes on the leading Toyota mechanics there. McNish closing in on the leader. He's been driving a tremendous stint, and here is a further problem, and this is once again our friend Mr. Terrada sharing with Frank Freon and Robin Donovan of Britain in the Auto X branded Riley and Scott car. That is having a very troubled run. Has spent a lot of time in the garages, and he's now spun and very generously pointing his headlights straight towards the oncoming traffic. That is Arnage there. That is the corner of Arnage where the old signalling pit used to be in the days before pits to car radio. And we've got somebody else off in the dirt. Now, this is action all over the place. The Rook car of Claudia Hurtgen appears simply to have outbraked itself, unless they've hit some oil, but they've flown off. That is underneath the Dunlop Bridge. An evocative sight and sound as the grandstands thin out, as this vast 200,000 people crowd thins out a little bit as they head off in search of beer and hamburgers and good French food, and of course the funfair. The cars echo on through the night. Still a lot of runners. We've still got 29 cars out of the 46 that started, while Toyota go about one of their regular stops. That the Boutsen McNish Ralph Kellener's car. Kellener's has driven very well as well. The number 2 Toyota still looking very strong. Franz Conrad Porsche, and just touching onto the gravel there, in between Indianapolis and Arnage. Oh, and it had an immediate effect. It had an immediate effect that would appear to be Franz Conrad, yes, having got onto the outside rough, leaving Indianapolis, gone straight on at Arnage. Got to get that car back to the pits for a check-over. The Toyota crew, some snatching a few moments of rest. A very mixed crew this, from Toyota Team Europe in Cologne, Germans and Englishmen, as well as Japanese, obviously. And this is a huge accident. There is not much left of that car. Now, which is this and where are we? That is underneath the Dunlop Bridge. The S is just before the Dunlop Bridge, and that is the number 2 Toyota. Toyota have again got a problem. Look at those faces of resignation, the shaking heads. And this is somebody else spinning. This is somebody else spinning. That is an open car. This is not a replay of the Toyota. That's right. That's the Courage C52 of the Italian former Grand Prix trio of Sciattarella, Montermini and Alex Caffi. And that's in a different location altogether. Now, we're seeing once again a picture of the Montero brothers in their 911. Is this because they've been involved in the accident with coming into the pit lane? Is this because they've been involved in the accident? No, they're not in the pit lane, excuse me. They've got a long way to go. All the flags are out. There is a full course yellow flag here, and the doctors are working on that car. Thierry Boutsen yet to be extracted from that car. And here this is the third and only remaining Toyota out of this massive effort, has been taken not into the pits but straight into the box, car put up on jack, and is being very carefully looked at. Yes, there is frontal impact damage there on the Montero Brothers 911. They must have hit someone, and we take it that they must have hit the Boutsen Toyota. Andre de Cortance there and Ove Anderson, the two men responsible for running the entire Toyota project, have been having a very careful look at the back end of the Japanese-driven car. Now, they have clearly got some secrets which they don't wish the world's press to know about. The Toyota team are dealing with a very difficult situation here. They want to know that after Brundle's accident and now Boutsen's accident, there is nothing inherently wrong with the third car driven by Tsuchiya Suzuki and Ukio Katayama. So we have the very unusual sight at Le Mans of quite a long spell already of yellow flag running with the safety car. You see there at the front of this snaking cavalcade of headlights. And so, with the order as a result of that accident to the second Toyota now is a BMW 1-2, followed by the first of the open Audis. A really tremendous result for them to this point. Very impressive indeed. Andre de Cortance there explaining to one of the engineers what he thinks happened in that incident between Montero and Boutsen, and we will bring you news of Thierry's condition as we hear it. We understand he's complaining of pains in his lower back and wished to be extracted very carefully. That was the beginning of the reason for the long yellow, and we are now hearing that there is oil on the Mulsanne Straight, an extensive amount of oil on the Mulsanne Straight, which needs to be dealt with because the cars are just going too fast. Now, we have got back to green, and the race is on once more. So, just after 12 hours of running, there has been a lot of action already. All the Mercedes out, well, last Mercedes withdrawn after the horrific accident to Peter Dumbrecht, and the fans watch on through the night, a little bleary-eyed maybe, but the drivers have got to keep fit and ready, except for those who only have a sad tale to tell. The little Porsche in the baby class going remorselessly on its way, and this still the class of the GTS field. Olivier Beretta out after another stint, Karl Wendlinger back in again. Wendlinger, of course, retired from Grand Prix racing some 3 years ago after his terrible accident at Monaco had meant that a comeback to the very top level of the sport was simply not practicable. So, a German 1-2-3, and here is the surprise of the race so far. A complete disc change on the Audi. Emanuele Pirro has been driving extremely well, sharing with saloon car star Frank Biela and Didier Taze. The sole remaining Toyota thunders on past the pits up towards the Dunlop Bridge, and it's getting lighter as we move towards a proper dawn here in France. Still time for headlights. The 67th running of the Le Mans 24-hour Grand Prix of Endurance. And as two of the major manufacturers have already discovered, it really is of endurance. Spirits a little low in the Toyota camp now, and spirits even lower in the Nissan camp. These cars have not had the testing. Oops! Oh! The Paynos taking a very aggressive line with the second-place car there, and actually punting him out of the way. But no harm done, and they both managed to carry safely on. And this is Michele Alboreto. He's just been pulling away from a pit stop. You see, he's still got his visor up, lights off. There's a problem. There's a problem. And he is on the radio saying, "Come on, boys, what do I do?" Well, I'm not sure they're allowed to do that. In fact, I'm reasonably certain they're not allowed to do that. They've come right outside their designated box to push Alboreto back in. But anyway, there's clearly some problem which they think they can fix straight away. It looks problematical. Eric Bernard at the wheel of the dramatic open Paynos. Well, it's not just a minor problem. This is, we are going to change the gearbox on the Audi there. And here the famous Dayglow green helmet of Henri Pescarolo. number 14, running his 33rd Le Mans. Henri Pescarolo has won nearly 50% of all the races ever held at Le Mans, a remarkable record. A winner, of course, in the late 60s and early 70s. Pescarolo still determined to bring on the younger French drivers, such as Patrice Gay, the Formula 3 star, who is sharing that courage with him. Henri himself, now 56 years old. The Chrysler Oreca Vipers, just an efficient machine under the guidance of Hugues de Chaunac. This team, and look at those positions in the GTS class. Vipers 1st to 6th. How that must make hearts glad back in the United States. When the Vipers first came, the 8-litre V10 car first came to Le Mans a few years ago, they were treated as something of an eccentric joke. But for Porsche now to have lost all their position in the class that has traditionally been theirs, but there is a preparation problem, because that is a wheel nut coming off the lease plan spot. Oh my goodness me, that is a brand new tyre. You can still see the sticker on the tyre. That means that car has not even worn away the paper sticker on the tyre just out of the pits. And somebody, hang your head in shame, because there goes the wheel nut. That is a problem. Emmanuel Clerico manages to keep the car at least out of the wall. And that's always no, that's not going to work. He's trying to lift the huge, heavy Viper up all by himself. No, back on the radio. Plug yourself back into the radio and ask the pits what to do next. And that is what should have been the really fastest of the Porsches. And if I was you, I would get out, because that looks like one very hot Porsche. Meanwhile, Clerico, and you could see the amount of gravel and muck that's been thrown up onto the track by everybody's problems, is trying to struggle with that huge Viper all the way back to the pits. Yes, flags being waved in order to warn the faster cars that there is somebody moving very slowly indeed. He might yet make it back to the pits. That's the secret to keep going. So, behind the Toyota in third place, the first of the Joest Audis, then, fascinatingly, the private Thomas Bashir, Steve Soper driven, and Bill Oberlin as well. Private, that's the black 98 BMW, lying fifth, which is really a very good position, and that is the second place BMW. And Joe Winkelhock, known as Smoking Joe, and we see why he's called Smoking Joe, as the tyres are set light once more. But he was lucky there, because the gravel is very thick underneath the Dunlop Bridge, and he was very lucky to get away from that. And we've got another one of the Rook cars. We've just seen one stopped on one side of the track, and this car is on fire. Thank heavens the onboard extinguisher has gone off. This is the Lloyd's of London insurance-sponsored car, shared by Hubert Haupt, the German professional, with Robinson and Price from England, and that car is comprehensively on fire. That has to be a blown turbo. That is traditionally what causes those Porsches to catch fire. We think everybody is safely out. Yes, they are. The Marshal's still looking a little bit nervous, the number 63 car. And that is the amount of muck being pushed onto the track at this stage in the race is a problem for everybody. That was the second of the Works Chrysler Vipers, as the leader tucks in underneath another back marker and sets off. Yes, they've managed to get the Rook Porsche now behind the barriers and out of the way. And he backed right off. He backed right off and was overtaken by the car he'd just been overtaking. That will not impress him very much. I don't think that was a mechanical problem. I think he was following instructions from the marshals. So, that is the lead car, and we think that is indeed JJ at the wheel, the car being shared with Christensen and Jörg Müller. And as the caption shows us, the Vipers are just all dominant. 51, 53, 52 is the team order. And that is JJ Leto in the wall at the Porsche curves with the wall right up close. The Schnitzer mechanics are getting spare bodywork ready. They can't believe this has happened. The lead car, and I'm sorry to say, that looks as though JJ is in trouble. It looks as though his leg is hurt, is what the doctors are paying attention to. Now, how has that happened? Those are very difficult corners. Now, he has a nearly 4-lap lead on his teammate, the number 15 car we're looking at here. No, thank heavens for that. After a race of so many dramas, all we needed was an injury to the great JJ. And this once more opens a small window of opportunity for the Toyota team. And Gerhard Berger here, BMW's worldwide director of motorsport, the former F1 driver, is talking to Yannick Dalmas, three-time winner at Le Mans, and they are now showing only the number 15 car in the lead because the first BMW has hit the wall. We now watch that car. Gerhard Berger, BMW's director of motorsport, we saw there giving a very strong briefing to Yannick Dalmas. They realize that with just one car left, they've got to balance consistency and reliability. Consistency and reliability with the need to fend off the number 3 Japanese crewed Toyota, and that is Butch Leitzinger in the Brabham Bernard car he's sharing. The Paynos had all manners of trouble. If they'd been running consistently, they would be third now in front of the Audis, but they're back in 7th position and having to deal with a whole raft of dramas. So, Katayama, Tsuchiya and Suzuki, that's Toshio Suzuki, not the former Formula 1 driver, the 44-year-old Toshio Suzuki, are in hot pursuit of Pierluigi Martini in the sole remaining BMW. Tension there, you can see, from the clenched fist in the Toyota pits. And the Nissan Courage, more trouble. Bit across the gravel. Oh, he'd spun. He'd had a spin. Tired drivers, tired reflexes. Late in the race. The Le Mans 24 Hours is not called the Grand Prix of Endurance without reason. But having said that, Katayama has unbelievably just put in a new fastest lap. I think the instructions he's getting from Andre de Cortance, who we see here going through his notes, are making it quite clear. And what has happened here? He's got a problem. He's got a problem. Drama again at Le Mans 1999. That's Katayama. Look, he has had a blowout just over the crest of the Mulsanne at the Mercedes flying strip there, just 300 meters behind us. What a disaster. That is the damage to the... Look at the nature of the tyre. He's driven back to the pits on that, and it is bound to have had some damage caused to the underneath of the car. Andre de Cortance, who after all was the designer of the car, wants to have a look and see how much damage has been caused. That's a shame. We were enjoying a closing down of the lead BMW, which we're looking at here, by the number 3, the red Toyota, which is out again now. But now he's a lap behind. He's a lap behind. He'd been as close as 20 seconds behind him. Katayama, Ukio made himself very popular when he raced those seasons in Formula 1 in the early 90s. A genuinely nice man, a hard-trying contender always. Meanwhile, Emanuele Pirro presses on in the open Audi. Little can they have dreamt when they started a race behind 3 Toyotas and 3 Mercedes-Benz and the BMWs that they would be in a position that got them up into a podium position in the top 3, but they have, and they did. Now here's going to be an interesting comparison between the GTS cars and the Toyota. But no, what is happening here? There must be a problem with the Toyota, because look, he cannot get past the Vipers on the straight. This is seen from the Beretta Wendlinger, and we're now looking forward from the Toyota. There has to be a problem, or following the accident, it could be that following the tyre blowout, who's to Schoenack now, the boss of the Chrysler team, Toyota have decided they've got to settle for second. Cheering them on the pit wall, giving Ukio some encouragement. Gerhard Berger can scarcely believe his luck as he looks on at the television monitor as Pierluigi Martini brings BMW number 15 towards the very last curves of the Ford chicane, coming up towards the start-finish line before the packed grandstands. The 67th Grand Prix of Endurance of Le Mans is won by BMW. The BMW of Pierluigi Martini at the line, delight in the pit lane on Charlie Lamb's Schnitzer team pit wall. Ukio, quite rightly, getting a huge round of applause from the not at all partisan crowd. They were delighted by that performance. The GTS series been won easily by the Chrysler Vipers of the Oreca team. And so we come to the podium celebrations, and that is one lucky and relieved team. Three disappointed Japanese sportingly give the BMW men a hand and accept their own second-place trophies. And the Audi Sport Years team can hardly believe their luck. Emanuele Pirro there with Frank Biela and Didier Thez. Monsieur Michelin also pleased. A win, of course, for a Michelin-equipped BMW car. The mammoth crowd has poured onto the pit lane, onto the start-finish straight, and the party now will only just begin. It's a long race, the 24 hours of Le Mans. Some already thinking about heading home. I hope you've enjoyed the 1999 Le Mans 24 Hours won by BMW.
L'équipage